Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. I am Trizzy.
And I'm Leah.
We are two voices, two views, and two ways to adventure anywhere. And we just spoke with Chantel from the Voyaging Vagabond. And she originally is from the US, but now lives with her wife in Portugal. Her focus is body positivity and plus size traveling, but with the splash of LGBTQIA pride.
Yeah, really. So no amount of coffee can give me enough energy as much as Chantel can. Like, she's so full of love, so full of life, had so much to teach us and preach about getting over that negative self-talk and taking those baby steps to speak nicer with yourself and to treat yourself with the respect that you deserve, and being comfortable in your own skin at home or in another country while you're traveling.
We asked her, is she more plus size focused or more gay friendly focus with the travels? And she just basically said, I don't even think about like my wife as, like a thing. Like she just her. That's how
Yep.
she is. That's how she's living. She's not living about is the attention on me because
Holding
I'm
hands with a
holding
woman.
hands
Yep.
with a woman. But no, that wasn't a thing for her. And I know the era that we live in, we're in that weird middle point where we saw how people treated the LGBTQ community, but we also see like the result of us fighting for our rights, fighting for the same
Yes.
equality. So I can imagine anybody just having that weirdness, like, why are you staring at me holding hands with my wife?
Right. She is like a beacon of light for all of us, whether you're LGBTQ or not, right? Whether you're worried about your body or not. I mean, like she mentioned, confidence is a thing for everybody, right? But I do love the confidence she exudes in literally everything.
Everything.
So this episode, I think anyone can resonate with, to be honest, because we've all felt insecure at some point in our lives, and it's just taking that first step to treat yourself with kindness. What are we drinking today?
Leah, I got myself a loose leaf Art of Tea Earl Grey tea, and I just sprinkled a little bit of lavender buds in there because I wanted to kind of counter the caffeine that Earl Grey black tea usually gives me. So
Okay.
there
All
you go.
right. Yep. And I got my coffee in a Starbucks San Francisco iced coffee mug, but I just made it with my mocha pot. It was like a Trader Joe's French vanilla flavored coffee with some simple silk almond milk and a little bit of almond milk cream, vanilla flavored almond creamer. Very, very simple today, but you know what? Iced coffee always hitting the spot.
Coffee is coffee, tea is tea.
Yep. And these two fuel us for every
Yes.
episode of Ticket to Anywhere that we create. So we always got to have our morning fuel.
If you find value and enjoy our episodes and special guests that we bring on, please rate and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love to get to know your feedback and what you guys want us to talk about.
And it helps push our podcast up in the ranks, helps others find us, and hopefully someone can find value in other topics that we speak about. But you can also leave us a review or comment on our Facebook page or YouTube channel if for whatever reason you can't make it to Apple Podcasts. Just search for Ticket #2 Anywhere podcast. You can also now support our work by buying us a coffee on our website that is linked in the show notes. So please enjoy this episode with Chantel of Voyaging Vagabond.
Hey there, it's Trizzy and Leah, your hosts for the Ticket to Anywhere podcast.
We created this travel podcast for you, who's just as obsessed with exploring the globe as we are.
We each travel a different way and even have different work schedules, but every episode we aim to widen your worldview, inspire you to consider a destination near or far, or learn from others.
With us, you can adventure from anywhere. Keep in touch with us on social media at Ticket to Anywhere Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Never miss an episode by subscribing to Ticket to Anywhere Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Pocket Casts. And hit subscribe to follow our visual podcast on YouTube.
All right, we have Chantel. Chantel, not Chantel, from the Voyaging Vagabond. Chantel, I want to say one of my favorite captions of yours was when you said, "You know what my favorite middle finger to society is? Dot, 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 knowing how damn sexy I am." That's when I
Yes.
was like, "Oh, let me know who this girl
Yeah.
is." So
Yeah.
tell us more of who you are. How did the Voyaging Vagabond come to life?
Yes. So like you said, my name is Chantel, and I created the travel blog Voyaging Vagabond back in 2015. And in the beginning, it was just like I had looked into a ton of different travel blogs while I was traveling. And so I wanted to like give back to the travel community by creating my own blog based off of experiences that I had had. Um, but as most people who start a blog realize, like, one, it's way harder than you think it is, and not everyone's just going to read your stuff magically. And two, like, I kept trying to be like every other person that was successful within the travel industry, and that just wasn't working for me. It wasn't until I decided to speak about my own narratives as a plus size woman and LGBT woman traveling the world that I realized like how much that narrative was missing within the travel industry. So like, for instance, I watched a video, and I when I travel, I use a 43 liter backpack. And in the beginning, I was like trying to get like tips on how to pack and like how to do how to use packing cubes. And I remember I watched this girl's video, and she was like, "Yeah, so you can pack as many bikinis as you want because they're super small." And I'm looking at my one top bikini, and like the bra size alone is like this big. And I was like, I could fit like 2 bathing suits in here. And so I was like, that's a problem. Like, I can't find like my perspective within the industry. And so I need to change that. And so I started being more open and being more vocal and like speaking from my own perspective so that there could be that narrative within the travel industry.
Amazing.
Because like when I started 2016, like nobody was talking about plus size travel. Nobody.
Yeah. You created that, or that space. You gave others permission to start talking about it. And so when you started, you were straight up just like travel is a niche, but like niching down within that, you were just like straight up travel. You didn't even think like, oh, I want to be like, you know, plus size queer storytelling.
I was just like, I was like, how to travel through London on a shoestring, like as if a million people haven't already written that article. Because like I didn't know going into the industry like kind of what to expect from blogging. So I just like wrote about things that I thought people wanted to read about. I wrote about the things that other people were already writing about because they were successful. So I was like, okay, well, if they're successful, this is the way that I need to do it. And then I stopped trying to be successful and decided to be relatable instead.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, you're so comfortable in your own skin. And I know you've answered this question before because you did a Q&A on your stories and people asked you like, how do I gain that confidence? But for our listeners here, like bless us with your confidence and how we could just walk up to a mirror and just be like, bam, this is me and I love it.
Yeah, it's funny now because like now there's like a big body positivity community. There's a lot of plus size creators within the travel industry. And like, there's like controversy on whether or not like we want to be considered confident as plus size people, because like the issue is a lot of people will say, you know, like just because I'm plus size and because I'm comfortable enough with my body, like I shouldn't be praised for being confident, for just existing. But for me, I genuinely think that confidence comes down to an issue with everybody, whether you're plus size, whether you're straight size. Like I have straight size friends that are like, damn Chantel, like how do I do what you do? Like, because you know, you put a camera in front of me and I'm like,
yeah, girl, your Instagram shows it. Yeah.
Like I'm feeling myself all the time. And what I find is that like confidence is just like an overall problem with everybody. And it really comes down to just like having the tenacity and the grit to go against every society standard that has been ingrained in you since the time you were born. And like having the ability and the strength to just go against all of that and say, no, I don't want to spend my entire life hating myself because I look a certain way, or because I think my arm's too fat, or like my waist is too big. Like, oh my God, there's better things to worry about, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so I think once you have the strength to kind of like overcome this idea that there's always going to be something wrong with you, and look at it like, you know, I might not need to love my body, but I just want to accept it. And I just want to stop speaking terribly to myself internally and saying that like all of these things are awful about me. And I think once you do that, then like anybody can gain confidence in themselves if you're just willing to love yourself a little bit more.
Yes. And I feel like it doesn't happen overnight. It has to be little by little. Like start with your pinky finger, you're awesome. You do a lot for me. Or like your thumb, because I don't think we can operate without our thumbs very well, right? We can't do the same things. We can't pick things up, right? So like sometimes it's like focus on what that body part can do for you.
Yeah, so Annette Richmond, who runs Fat Girls Traveling, is a really good friend of mine. And we worked on a program together a few years ago, and we were filming, and she had us do this exercise where we took the things that we typically criticize about ourselves and write what we loved about them. So like, for instance, a lot of plus size women will be self-conscious about their arms. They're scared that their arms are too big, and, you know, they'll like shy away in pictures. And she was like, why do I hate my arms? My arms give the best hugs. And like, that line still sticks with me to this day. Like, shout out to Annette. Like, that really, like, genuinely, like, and it's just changing the way that you talk to yourself, changing the way that you criticize. And rather than like criticizing, being like, you know, I instead of saying I hate my stomach, why don't you say like, I love my stomach for stretching and keeping up with the life that I'm living. And, you know, I'm thankful for my skin for being able to change and form to whatever I put it through. Like, your body's such an incredible thing, and it's not meant to be hated.
It is definitely. It's like we're able-bodied. It's a privilege for us to be able to move. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. And like people underestimate that. Yeah.
I think about that too when, you know, able-bodied, it's like, wait, I can't do push-ups, but I can do like a few, you know, like I can't pull up, but like I have my arms. Yeah. Like all these things. I struggle with that a lot. I think I go back and forth between that a lot. And so even because I guess there's a new category out there called mid-size, which I fall into, but you know, Chantel, I have the same doubt sometimes when I'm packing and I'm like, this doesn't fit into my blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why doesn't it fit? And I'm like, oh my God, it's too much material. And then I start like, oh my God, that's because of the size of my body, you know? But I don't know. It's like a flex now, being like in between where like there's a category now for this. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like now I feel like I'm being spoken to. So we appreciate that you so far, you know, so long ago started that before it even became a thing, like before body positivity was big and, you know, being plus size was big. So you like forged that path.
Oh, guys, thanks.
Do you feel that you talk about like in your content, you know, in your socials, do you feel that you talk about being like plus size more or queer more, or is it really truly like together? Like that's the niche is together.
Okay. It's definitely plus size more because like, so my wife, I keep wanting to say my girlfriend, but we just recently got married. So it's so weird to be like, my wife, like she put a ring on it. My wife. But no, like I've been with my wife now for almost 10 years. So for me, like, it's just so ingrained into my everyday life that I forget that like, I have to talk about it. Like, I forget that like, I have to like address like the queer size, but because for me, it's just life. Like, you know, like it's just existing with my partner. Like I don't even give a second thought. And again, it's a level of privilege to not have to give a second thought about being with my significant other who is who does identify as a woman. But that being said, I definitely do talk about my plus size side more. For me, it's just something that really resonates with me. I spent years hating myself, and my internal voice, it was a monster, and there's still days that I struggle with it. And so for me, I know firsthand like how deeply somebody can hate themselves. And I genuinely do have a problem with that. And I really do just want to like change that side of society because it's so damaging and it's generations deep and it's a cycle that like desperately needs me to come in like the Kool-Aid man and just like smash that cycle and be like, we're not doing this anymore. We're over it. And so like, I definitely do find myself talking about my plus size side more, but you know, my queer side, I just want to live and I just want to like show people like me living in bliss with my girlfriend, with my girlfriend, my wife.
You got promoted to wifey. Yeah.
Yeah. I just try to like show like it's very much so ingrained into my everyday life so that like it doesn't have to be a thing. That you know
that's so interesting because I find that same parallel being an Asian woman. I've never really gotten, and I can't remember why I just said this before, but I haven't gotten too much flack. And I grew up in a very like conservative, mostly white town. So even growing up, I didn't get a much flack from like being Asian, but being a woman is almost a cause that I like stand up for like louder and prouder. And I talk about that more because I've been marginalized just as a woman, but not so much as an Asian. So it's interesting where I see you're like, this is just me existing, being in love with my wife. Like, this is normal. This is 10 years. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I've been Asian my whole life. Like
you don't even think about it anymore. You're like, oh, that's something I have to talk about. I thought that was just me. Like, I thought me just being here was us already talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's true. And I do try to be like conscious of kind of changing the narrative behind queer travel, because so often you'll see like 10 countries to avoid as an LGBT traveler. And I'm like, why am I going to scare people?
You don't want to scare people.
Yeah. And like, you know, Steph and I have traveled to so many countries together and, you know, we are lucky that like we are passing and, you know, we're not two men that are holding hands and our experience is different. And I do recognize that. But at the same time, like, I just want to change this narrative that like people should be fearful because of their sexuality to travel. Yeah. And I'm like, no. Like, yes, those countries might exist, but there are still plenty of other places that you can go to.
Oh yeah.
How is Portugal? Are they friendly? Like LGBT friendly there?
They love the gays. It's great. Everyone's super accepting. Portugal, you might need to fact check me on this, but as far as I know, Portugal was actually one of the first countries in the EU to accept same-sex marriages. Like same-sex marriages, same-sex adoption is all very legal here. Even when Steph and I got married, we got married in the States and then planned to come back to Portugal. And we had to register our marriage at the Portuguese consulate, which was in Providence, Rhode Island. And we went and, you know, I grew up with Portuguese immigrants that like came from the old country. And, you know, growing up, it was very like, oh, you can't be gay, you can't be tattooed, you can't be pierced. And now I'm all of those things. But, you know, like, of course, my parents have changed with the times, but it was still like that mentality that I grew up with. So I was really nervous going to the consulate to like be like, I'm here to register my marriage with a woman. And the man that helped us was like, I'm so happy that you guys found love. It's so great when we can find someone we want to be with for the rest of our lives. At one point, he was like, love is like a car. And I was like, oh God, this is about to be the most Portuguese metaphor ever. And it was.
Love
and he
like
was like, yeah. He was like, you know, it's like that thing, exhaust. And I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And he was like, you can't hold things in. Like, if you feel something, always talk about it, or else the exhaust will break. And I was like, oh my God, bless this Portuguese man right now with his car love metaphor. So like, it's really cool to like even see someone in like a high up position he even at one point was like, I have a 3-year-old daughter and all I want is for her to find happiness and to be loved by someone. He's like, it doesn't matter who. And so just to hear that for like, even from like a cultural standpoint in the way that I grew up, it was like, what? Like, that's how you guys are feeling? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's really welcoming here. It's a great LGBTQ destination.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I know. I keep telling Chantel. So Chantel and I know each other from Nomadic Network. I've hosted some of your events. We love you as a repeat speaker there. So, but this audience may not know, that we met through there, and you are literally like our Portuguese guru. So can you tell us a little bit about like how you fell in love with it, how you got there?
Yeah. So I love that I'm considered the Portuguese guru. I swear,
You
my
truly
mom's
are.
so proud when she hears that. My mom's like probably beaming in Rhode Island right now. Like her like senses are going off. But no, like I mentioned, both of my parents immigrated from Portugal to the United States. My parents left because of the fascist regime that was the dictatorship in Portugal at the time. There was really no opportunity over there, so they decided to come to America. And so I grew up in like this strange American Portuguese hybrid culture where like my parents still very much so loved the culture. Like they belonged to the Portuguese social club. I did traditional Portuguese folklore dancing as a kid.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, girl, I still got the steps. I whip them out sometimes if I have enough wine. And so for me, Portugal was always just like a very special place. And then when I was 9, it was the first international destination that I went to. So we went back to the island that my mom was from, and it completely changed every single thing my little 9-year-old brain had in there, because all I knew was Rhode Island. All I knew was America. And then to go somewhere like this tropical island in Portugal, and I was like, whoa, this is what the rest of the world looks like. And then like, ever since then, I was like, oh no, I'm getting out. Like I'm going, I'm leaving. Goodbye. I love you guys so much. I'm sorry, I'm not going to move down the street from you, but like, I need to leave. And so I just decided to check out Portugal a few times, like growing up, like popping over to see family. And then once I was old enough, I came and visited on my own. And then my parents were like, hey, the opportunity's there if you want to get citizenship. And I was like, oh, you mean the golden ticket? Yes, please get me out of America. Like, what? How much do I have to pay? Like, please just tell me. And so I've had my citizenship for a few years. And then about a year ago, I took the plunge and decided to move out here long term. So it's been like a little over a year now.
This was during the pandemic that you moved over?
Okay, well, I did not plan that intentionally.
So like, peace.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm out of here. Well, we went December. So Steph and I went 2019 in December. And then Steph was planning to stay for 3 months because at the time that's as much as her US passport would allow for her without a visa. And then I was going to do some traveling after she left after the 3 months. And then I was going to come back to the States. And then Steph left on a Tuesday. The country shut down that next week because of the pandemic. And it was like 2-week quarantine that turned into 3 months. And it was interesting to see how Portugal was handling the pandemic and how America was handling the pandemic. And I was like, I called Steph and I was like, honestly, 1, financially, it's smarter for me to stay here. And 2, like, y'all looking a hot mess. Like, why are you fighting over toilet paper in the middle of the aisle? Like, I am not coming home to that. And so I decided to stay. And, it was always like, oh, well, Steph's going to come in a few months. Like once the quarantine's over, she'll be able to go. And then it was like June, July, August, September. And then eventually I was like, yeah, I don't think she's going to be able to come. So maybe I have to go back. So I just recently went back to the States for a few months and now we're back in Portugal for long term.
Yay.
That's so good.
Represent it, girl.
Yeah. PT forever.
Yeah, it's like one of my top, isn't it one of yours, Trizzy? Like one of your top places to go, or was that someone else?
I think that was you, but when you talked about
Definitely
it, I was
me.
like, oh, I want to go now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're going to do the trail.
Yeah, I do want to do I want to do the Portuguese Camino, but then I'm like,
I've heard it's beautiful.
I hear that too, but I wanted to do it because I'm like, okay, I hear it's more naturey, and it's a little less crowded than the Spanish Camino, right? The very popular one. But then I'm like, well, do I want that for safety reasons? I'm so far away from this, but like,
honestly, like, I feel so safe in Portugal. Like, even like my girlfriends and I were walking home at like 11 o'clock at night last night. And like, not once was I like nervous about something happening. Like in terms of like safety, like being able to just like walk and not have to stress about that. Like that's definitely the case here. Like I feel super safe.
Okay. All right. Gotta get the knee surgery, gotta get the knee fixed first. And then I want the Camino to be like my, like, oh, I can do it. Oh, going back to body positivity, I'm like, I'm strong. My knee is fixed. This is my celebration. I'm going to hike 5 weeks on this Camino and prove that like my knee is fixed. Yeah. I've had a lifetime of knee problems. So even that hinders me sometimes because I just feel like I'm weaker. Like I tell myself, oh, my knee is broken, so I can't do that. Like I talk myself into not doing things, right?
Yeah, of course. It's just your brain trying to find control when you don't really have control in a situation. And like, rather than just accepting that, like, you can't control it. And like, yes, like your knee might not be at full strength, but like, you don't have to control that. There's still so many other things you can do. And your knees are still helping you walk every single day. So like, at 100%. Least there's that.
100%. Chantel, I think about that too all the time. Cause I'm like, girl, like you are walking like, at least I can have the basic daily like functions of like walking, getting up, etc. It's just, I can't play tennis or basketball, but like how many of us are actually doing that? I'm like, I'm not a pro basketball or tennis player. Yeah. Tracy needs me.
You're like Michael Jordan dreams ruined.
I know. Dang it. It's okay. Trizzy will live out my WNBA dreams for me.
Yeah, I got you. I'm working on it.
So I see on your blog, I love like these, well, when I was looking through it, I saw like some LGBTQ guides and then some plus size guides. Like, how do you feel does that resonate with people?
Yeah. So I'm trying to like dive into the world of reels, which is like video content is like extremely intimidating for me, despite my personality. Everyone's like, you have a great personality for video. And I'm like, yeah, but then I like get on camera and I do like too many finger guns and like my
girl, that's how I started off this presentation. She's like, we have Chantel here. And I was like,
yeah, like my cool factor just goes out the window. So like I'm sitting on a ton of different video content that I'm just like accepting that like I just need to put out there. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like I would love to put more onto my YouTube channel. And then my plus size articles are honestly my best performing articles. Like I have packing tips from a plus size woman and travel tips from a plus size woman. And both of those always are like top of the list every single month. And it just goes to show that like there's such a large community that is like desperately seeking this information. And like, if I can continue to put myself out there and like offer this insight that I've gathered after all of these years of traveling, then like, that's all I want to do. Like, I'm just, let's get these plus size people on planes. Let's get them believing in themselves and let's get them on the beach. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So with that being said, besides like your own resources that you put out there, are there any like apps or sites or like things, hot tips that you do that like help you as like a plus size traveler? Like what things can you share with, the audience that you've found useful and helpful?
Yeah. So a good friend of mine actually runs this website / app. It's called While Fat. So it's essentially a TripAdvisor, but for plus size people. So it covers different locations, like different tours, different tourist attractions, and basically rates how plus size friendly it is. It's a fantastic resource. My friend Amanda created it with her husband, and it's just really helpful. Like if you are wondering, like, am I going to fit in the rides at Disney? Like, then you can look at that. There's also the Fat Girls Traveling community is like my go-to. Like the women in that group are just absolutely incredible. Like every time I have a question, they're just so empowering and so helpful. And it's really nice to see that like my narrative isn't the only one, and that we do share like a lot of the experience that we have, like kind of run parallel to each other. And so definitely the plus size traveling community, definitely While Fat. Jeff, who I saw was a guest not too long ago, runs Chubby Diaries, also a really great website full of fantastic information. Isn't he just a ball of light?
Yeah. I mean, you both are, to be honest. We're lucky to interview you like one after the other,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Jeff and I are good friends, and like whenever we get together, it's just a lot of positivity in the room. It's like too much. It's like people are like, oh God, tone it down. But no, again, another great creator within this community that is putting out really helpful information for people. And then there's a ton of different creators now, which is great. It's so crazy to say that, because when I first started talking about it, there was like 4 or 5 people that were really talking about it. Now there's so many. And so it's great to be able to go on social media and like follow all of these different creators within the industry. So there's a lot of different resources out there. Also, Chrissy Leanne writes for Plus Size Travel too, which is another travel blog that's focused for plus size readers, that offers a lot of different insight and a lot of different experiences for different tourist attractions or locations. So the material's out there, and it feels really great to be able to say that.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, because even, I mean, these resources are needed because there's some like excursions, like if you're over X amount of weight, like they either won't let you go on it, or they'll have to like adjust whatever it is, like whether it's zip lining or indoor skydiving. Like there was at one point where they're like, we need to change the straps for me. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, this was a while ago, but yeah, so definitely keep doing your thing, girl.
Yeah. I mean, like I went to water country with my nephew a few years ago, and they have this thing at the top that you step on, and it either gives you a green light or a red light.
Oh,
and I was like, this is traumatizing.
If you're red, can you not go down it?
No, it means you've gone past the weight limit and you cannot go down the slide, which, like, first off, I just waited 45 minutes in this line.
Yeah.
And now you're going to tell me that that's not an option.
Right.
But yeah, so like that would be something that I would mention to people if they were considering, like, because that can be really triggering for a lot of people. Like even for myself, who's like pretty confident in her body, but like I still was like, damn, this is awkward.
And then you gotta like do it in front of everyone too. It's like, come on.
And what if it's red? I have to like walk down the stairs.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, wait, isn't it a water slide? Can't you just like, don't you just get down a little like faster or something? You know, I don't know.
Like, can I just accidentally trip and like take the water slide down? Like what?
Please do that next time. See ya.
And then what if your nephew is like so young that he can't go down by himself?
Yeah, he's gonna trip too. We're going down together. I'll hold his hand. We are in this together. Like, it's so weird. I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah. You're like, all right, on the count of 3, we're gonna trip, right?
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Oh man, that was a funny one. So when we go off to a new country or a new city, like I feel out of my bubble all the time. Do you ever feel that way on new adventures?
Yes, I definitely do feel that. Also, because like my style is very much so like I don't give a blank, and so I just like wear what I'm comfortable in. I wear what makes me feel good, and most often that's like a lot of crop tops. And so like there are some countries that I've been to, even in Portugal, like the old ladies will stare at like this tiny sliver of stomach that I'm showing, and they're like.
And that's like, a generational thing though. Yeah. Like anywhere in the world, that's a generational thing. Yeah.
Facts. And so like, you know, something like that, you notice in certain countries, like when I was in Thailand, like I definitely got a few more extra looks for being a plus size woman. But again, like the beautiful thing is once you get to a point where like you are comfortable with yourself, like that really doesn't matter. Like I see them. And even my friends will be like, "Oh, these people are looking," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even notice." And like, it's just really good to have. But I mean, I still get a little bit out of my comfort zone when I travel sometimes. But that's the beauty of traveling, is to get out of our comfort zone.
Yes, that's an Asian thing. Like I've noticed that a lot when I go to like the Asian countries.
They stare.
The stares.
It's the same in like Latin America, anywhere Central South America. It's I just think it's like cultural, right?
Right. And I'm like, what of you guys? What are you staring at?
Yeah.
You're like, what the heck, man?
I don't know. They can spot an American 2 miles away. So
that's true. They're like, you're a fraud.
Yeah. You are not one of us.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's time to get into our T2A Q2A, which is the Ticket to Anywhere Quick to Answer segment. A little rapid fire going on for you. 4 harmless questions. And the first one.
Come on.
Why do you travel?
Why do I travel? I travel because the world is too big to just stay in one place. I travel because it helps me find myself. I travel because it helps me learn how to be a kinder person. It's taught me compassion. It's taught me empathy. It's taught me patience. It's taught me acceptance. It's connected me to some of the best people in my life. It's made me realize how capable I am, not only as a woman, not only as a plus size woman, not only as a gay woman, but it has just taught me so much about myself. And then not only that, but I travel because I told myself I couldn't for a long time. I told myself I had to be skinny before I could do all these things. I told myself that I could not exist as my best self until I was skinny. And then I realized, damn, ain't nobody got time for that. And so I decided to stop putting my life on hold and just going for it. And that's why I absolutely love to travel, and I love to experience new cultures and to meet new people. And you know, to think that there was a time that I held myself back from that really does feel crazy. And I don't want to do that anymore. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, girl. Amen.
Love it.
All right. Do you have any rituals or routines when you get to a new city or a new place?
Yeah. Okay. So I unfortunately got robbed in October and woke up and all of my things were gone. And so now one of my rituals is I unpack everything. Mm-hmm. So I hate it because I'm I just want to go outside and walk around. Mm-hmm. But now just for my own personal safety and it just a little reassurance for myself. I put everything away. I lock up my valuables, which is a new thing I've started to do. Mm-hmm. But it just helps keep me a little safer. It gives me a little bit of peace of mind. So I just accept that.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's a good one though. Kind of helps you feel settled even for a few days.
No,
You're here I am, right? I'm present.
Yeah. Yeah. And people exactly what Trizzy did. People are always oh, I'm so sorry that happened. And yeah, it sucked. But at the same time, it's helped me become so much stronger and being able to deal with that loss and just accept it. And it's good now.
Sure. Well, we're so glad you're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's now it's great. Part. Now it's taught me a lot more about myself. So I'll take it as a lesson.
Awesome. All right. What items do you absolutely need with you on your trips?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. I mean, I feel like I should go practical where I'm external battery, extra memory cards.
Hey, that's important.
But I always travel with a bag of gummy bears, always a bag of Haribos in my bag. Looking over, I can already see 3 packs of gummy bears just sprinkled around my apartment. So yes, always gummy bears, always a speaker, always a book,
Nice. I love that. All right. So last thing, tell us what your next trip is and where everyone can find you, Chantel.
All right, no big trips. I just got back to Portugal and I never want to leave for the rest of my life. No, I'm kidding. But right now I'm very happy with being here. I'm okay with not rushing to get anywhere new. I'm very content here. And then where you can find me. So like you guys have already mentioned, my blog is voyagingvagabond.com. You can find me on Instagram where I'm definitely most active. It's voyaging_vagabond. And then I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, and all that good stuff.
You're the best.
And you can find me on this podcast. So check out this podcast.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Chantel.
Thank you, Chantel.
Again, you're the best. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Honestly, guys, thank you.
You guys be safe out in Portugal. Have fun. Yes. Enjoy your surrounding. Enjoy the married life. Congrats on that.
Yes.
Love wins, y'all.
Please come visit. Wins. Please come visit soon, guys.
We'll be there, girl.
Borders open. Get over here.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Don't forget, we are on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you loved this episode, please leave us a 5-star review, subscribe, follow us on any podcast platform and YouTube so you never miss an episode drop.